We're back now with the Massachusetts Senate Minority Leader, Bruce Tarr. And Senator Tarr, welcome back to MSO.
Thanks, Rick. It's great to be with you again.
It is great to be here, man. And, we're rolling along towards spring. It's the end of February. Um, uh, Things are looking better and better, more optimistically all over the place. And before we get to maybe some issues, I do want to ask you about some recent goings on. Last week, we talked about rules, and we talked about filing bills, and we also talked about that with Senator Joan Lovely. So what's the status of that now as we're a week removed from that?
So a couple of quick updates, Rick. The Senate has adopted its rules and adopted a proposal for the joint rules between the House and the Senate. The House adopted its proposal yesterday, and so we now need to reconcile those two proposals for the joint rules. But the Senate rules are in place. And just one other update, we always are curious to see how many bills are going to get filed for the legislative session. And the deadline was last Friday, and approximately 6,000 bills got filed.
Whoa.
So that's a lot of legislation. Not entirely out of the range that we would have expected or what we've seen in the last few years, but it is a lot of legislation, and we'll now begin the process of sorting it all out and prioritizing it.
Is the idea still to do it remotely in terms of the Senate? Because I know that that's been the case for a long time now.
It is. We'll probably remain in remote sessions for the foreseeable future. Although, as we've seen in the last few days, things are changing quite rapidly in terms of public health generally, and the reduced number of COVID-19 cases and the proliferation of vaccinations. So as we move forward, it could be that we'll modify those plans. But right now, the plan is to continue to operate remotely with the temporary rules that we adopted to facilitate that.
Well, I want to get to that in a little while if we can. And I noticed that you are in your Senate office, which is pretty amazing to see. So bless you, Senator. Grants coming up. I know that there's so much going on right now, and there's some good news for this area.
Some very good news, Rick, that came out of the Seaport Economic Council a couple of days ago. And that's one of the most important state agencies in terms of making resources available for coastal communities, because we know that when you're a coastal community, you have some extraordinary expenses for things like maintaining seawalls and wharves and piers. And it's hard for one municipality to be able to pay for a lot of those things. And so the good news that we got this week was that Manchester by the Sea is getting 2 grants, one to be able to improve boating access to Tuck's Point, which is really important. I think we all know what a treasure Tuck's Point is, and how much people use it and how much it gives access to the water. So the Manchester by the Sea will be getting a grant for Tuck's Point, and also for the repair and the expansion of Morse Pier, which is used not only by recreational boaters, but also by commercial vessels, for instance, in the lobster industry. So good news there. And then in Gloucester, the Gloucester Marine Genomics Institute, which has been doing just incredible, groundbreaking work with regard to understanding the genomics of the marine environment, they got a grant that is going to allow them to partner with the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries to look at norovirus, which particularly affects soft-shell clams. And this is one of those things, Rick, that affects the commercial fishing industry, because we know how important the soft-shell clam industry is, but it also has a connection to public health, because we've seen with COVID-19 that zoonosis can occur, and we can have a jump of a particular disease that affects animals and wildlife that can then affect ultimately human beings. So for a lot of reasons, this is really important research, and this is a great grant that's going to GMGI. And if you put the 3 of them together, Rick, that means that this week we know that the Cape Ann communities are getting close to $1 million in grant funding through the Seaport Economic Council.
Wow, that is spectacular. And it's so early in the year, so that is good news. My goodness. Senator, you mentioned COVID. So just kind of an open question. It's been, as I was opening up with us, it seems to me that this is a time of optimism. Things, in my opinion, are going very well. I waited an hour and a half yesterday online with the new website, and I finally got to be first in line. and it told me, okay, you got to check in next week. But I'm okay with that because that's an improvement. The software is getting better. The communication with us normal folk is getting better as far as I can see. And the numbers are going down. And lo and behold, Governor Baker had some really good news on Thursday.
Very much so. The public health indicators, like the number of folks that are hospitalized for COVID-19, the number of cases that are being reported, and the positivity rate for testing are all moving in the right direction in a very dramatic way. And at last look, I think the positivity rate was somewhere around 1.35, 1.45%, definitely less than 2%, which indicates that we are moving in a very, very good direction. And as a result of that, we are going to return to phase 3, step 2 on Monday. And that will be a very good sign, particularly for restaurants that we've talked about so much, Rick, in the past, where they're going to be able to, as long as they maintain the distancing between the tables and the patrons, they're going to be able to resume pretty much regular capacity just with those constraints. And then as we move forward, right now, if things don't get worse, on March 22nd, we're going to be able to go to the first phase or the first step of phase 4. And that is incredibly significant because that's something that many of us didn't think we were going to see for several months to come. And so we are moving in the right direction. And as of course, we've all seen in the news reports, that means that things like theaters and stadiums and other kinds of things, performance venues, are going to be able to open up. Now, with limited capacity, of course, but some things like some of the performance venues are going to be able to go to 50% capacity. That is incredible progress. And so definitely it is a time of optimism. It isn't that we can let our guard down, but I think what it demonstrates is the sacrifices that we've been making, and we had some hard months over the winter, those are beginning to show dividends.
Senator, final question that I have. I talked with Senator Lovely earlier, and she was mentioning how people still in Salem, for example, are calling her office for help and so on. You have so many roles in your position as minority leader. What is the best way for people to get hold of you? In other words, from your constituents, because as minority leader, you have this big umbrella where you oversee so many other things, and I know that you personally do stay in touch with people in your district.
I appreciate the question, Rick, and I do want to mention that we have been getting a lot of calls about the state's vaccination program. And a lot of folks have been frustrated with the website, and we've been trying to help them navigate through that. We've also been working to try to set up more local clinics. And a number of those have happened on Cape Ann and throughout the region where we've been able to see vaccinations, somewhere between 300 and 1,000 people. I visited a couple of sites this past week. For instance, one was in Rowley and one was in Gloucester. So we are getting a lot of calls about vaccinations, but I appreciate the question because we want to make sure that if people need help or they want to offer their thoughts about anything, they can reach us. And the best ways to do that are through the phone. And the number is 617-722-1600. That's 1600. Or by email at bruce.tarr@masenate.gov. And I would point out, Rick, we do have a limited staff here at the State House to be able to respond. So it may take us a while to be able to do that, but we are here and the rest of the staff is working remotely. So to make those interconnections may take us a little bit of time, but we're here and we want to make sure that people connect with us if they need help or if they want to provide some insight into the process or a particular issue.
And I can verify that you or your staff do respond, and you respond personally. So I thank you for that. And I know how busy you guys must be. Senator, anything else that you want to mention in this session here?
Rick, just a couple of stats that I thought people might find interesting. I look back, and as of February 23rd, which is just a few days ago, in the last 7 days, we had vaccinated about another 215,000 people. And as of the 23rd, in Massachusetts, about 1.5 million people had been vaccinated. So despite all of the issues, we are making progress. And one thing that I think we all need to remember is that there's only one source of vaccination doses, and that's the federal government. And we need to continue to see progress there because right now we're getting about 130 new first doses a week. And we have the capability, as you and I talk right now, to be able to do about 300,000 vaccinations per week, and it could even be more. So as things ramp up with regard to the approval, for instance, of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and the expedited production of the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine, as we move forward, it certainly has been frustrating, but I think it's important to know we have unmet capacity. And as we get those doses, and I hope it'll be soon, we'll be able to do more. And really on the ground, there's a lot of vaccination infrastructure that we can put to work. And I'm looking forward to the day when we can do that very soon.
That is terrific information, Senator. That is great to know. And I want to reiterate that as far as I'm concerned personally, I think the fits and starts and glitches and so on are very, very minor. This thing continues to roll on. People are getting vaccinated. The governor's program, in my opinion, is working, and I want to thank you for all the work that you do with it.
Well, you know, we're happy to work on that as a team. We're also happy to pass on folks' concerns to the governor and to the lieutenant governor and to the COVID command center. And again, we are in uncharted territory here. And every day we're all working at troubleshooting a system that has left some people very frustrated. And I sympathize with that. But we need to continue to move forward. We need to continue to evolve the system. And we need to continue to work toward herd immunity, which we think we'll get to when there are 85% of the public that are over the age of 18. So we're making progress at that, and progress every day. Certainly not without some pitfalls as we go forward, but it is a team effort, and we need to continue to keep moving forward, because you can see the results again when we talk about being into step 1 of phase 4 as soon as March 22nd. That's incredibly optimistic news.